displayed all the gods, and that's why he's so lonely.
Wait, so what? Wait, so we're going with Lonely God and Godslayer, or are we going with Lonely God and MieGod?
Well, if we're gonna go by their English names, we go by Lonely God and Godslayer. If we're gonna go by their names in their clients, I think, then it's Langweixian and MieGod.
Hmm. I'm unsure.
Very legit, very legit.
Well,
We are having the first match here, and it will
spoilers.
be.
I pre-prepared the text names, so it's MieGod versus Lonely Gods. Except I got them the wrong way round. Let me
Fine.
fix that.
Fine. All right. Anyway, it's gonna be the Reno Luck of MieGod versus the mid-range Paladin of Lonely God here.
I see that Doomsayer again. That's I say a little bit of Chinese tech. Chinese players were always fans of the Doomsayer, and it's in the Magus lock, and it looks like a combo version of the Reno lock. Looks like a combo version with the Faceless Manipulator, and just a turn 3 Doomsayer here. I mean, it's gonna do something.
Definitely makes to go for it on turn 3 rather than turn 2, because there's no real way to kill this unless there's like a coin true silver, in which case you're getting rid of your opponent's coin anyway.
He could coin Olderman here and then double trade.
Yeah, it's
and
a
keep
bit...
it 2-2 and a 3-4.
Right. Everything... See, this is just the reason why, MieGod waited for this. He wanted maximum value out of this, and it can be pretty difficult against mid-range Paladin, so going for this, try to get as much value as possible. And now Lonely God has to decide whether or not he wants to commit a lot to the board just to take this out, or let a lot die to it.
Yeah, I can see the thought process. I mean, he is trying to think, do I want no board going into next turn? And he's going to do it. So he's going to have the 3-4 and a 2-2.
Something that Doomsayer is very powerful. Gonna punch these guys with his 3 attack. But yeah, gonna be a 2-2 and a 3-4. Still gets the tempo there, and he has some, stuff to work with, does Lonely God here, but, gonna be difficult to make this work. Gonna go with the Defender of Argus to try to take this out. Might get a value trade if this is a 2-3. We'll see what happens here. Is a 1-4, which is...
Yeah, that's a little bit greedy, I have to say. I think using the 3-3 to trade with the first part of the Shredder was what I was looking at, but he obviously did it the other way around.
Oh.
If he'd used the mini-bot, he would have been able to keep the Keeper alive just with 1 health damaged and kill that 1-4 straight away.
Yeah, it depends on what you value more, right? Having a... You could have had actually a 3-1 and a 4-1, which is kind of nice. You could have also had... obviously, depending on what comes out. If you kill with the mini-bot, then you're guaranteed killing that guy off. And then you probably get, a 4-2 or 4-3 left. So I can see him being a bit greedy there. I mean, it's the worst case scenario. It's not too bad in that situation.
Thorson, straight off the top there. Hits some really nice targets. The Siphon Soul going down to 5 is nice. Allows you to weave in something else on a turn with it. The Boom and Sylvana is obviously good to get discounted. The combo piece of the Faceless. And, a 7 mana twisting now there's not to be sniffed at either.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the issue with Paladin sometimes. Sometimes you can't get too many dudes out. I mean, the dudes are pretty threatening to another, basically any other hero that plays a bit slowly, because they can just, add up and provide a lot of value. But, from the side of MieGod, he has so much going on for him that you really need to start making something happen here if you're Lonely God.
Yeah, actually, what I noticed from Lonely God here is actually not from his plays, but his what he wears at the moment, and from the day before is that he's not actually wearing his team's uniform. I mean, he's from Team Voice Control, and even though it's a small team, but I know there's a uniform for everyone, and he actually wore the uniform to the championship in the Gold Series in
Plus Faceless. Is that just lethal? Did you just find lethal? He has mana for the Dark Bomb as well. Yeah, so 16 is a lot of damage. Just no calculation required.
Let's look at the politics of this tower right here. A whelp has deposed Deathwing from the top of the tower on the desk.
That's just...
I mean, the sizes aren't quite right, but per Deathwing.
It's a pretty big whelp compared to Deathwing.
MieGod jumps out to a quick 1-0 lead there with the combo. which was looking pretty unlikely. It looked like the Paladin, having refilled with the Leon hands, was going to be in a really strong position.
Well, if there was a Reno picked up, it would have been really good for the Reno as well. But yeah, I mean that's just how it goes. That's what the deck does, right? It's kind of like Druid in a way, if you think about it, because if you can get that 16 damage combo off, that means that your opponent can't really leave anything on the field at all.
Yep. So 1-0 for MieGod here against God Slayer. Obviously, if we're talking about,
I think you said MieGod and God Slayer.
I did. If Lonely God is looking at perhaps joining Newbie, beating one of Newbie's players would be a good way to establish himself in their minds. But it looks like he's just playing Control Warrior here with both Alex Straza and Ysera.
Right, and we'll see how that goes against Druid. Typically, you don't really want those big clunky cards against Druid because the Druid will just kill you. So it doesn't work too well. He does have Double Dustbite, which will be nice to kind of stem the tide. I mean, on the one hand, having really clunky minions is really bad. But if you have mid-range minions but no weapons, which is like the lifeblood of Warrior, then that can be pretty bad as well. So not the worst ever, but I would say a bit below average here for Lonely God as far as his hand is concerned. Going to be Wild Growth into Innervate Thorson. Always feels good when you're a Druid player and you can do that. And yeah, gonna have to be just tossing away this Armor Smith if Lonely God wants to get rid of this. Yep.
Yeah, that's not the first time we've seen that early Thorson today, and yeah, just the mana advantage it gives you in a deck which relies on that mana advantage is pretty strong.
Yeah, typically Druid wants to go first, and get that mana advantage. But I imagine that MieGod is actually pretty fine going second here, particularly because he had 3 pieces of ramp here. He had the Wild Growth, he had the Innervate, and the Thorson. And Thorson is obviously not very is not costed well for what the body he provides in the temple. So you definitely need to make use of the discounts he provides. And speaking of cards, even more cards comes out of this ancient lore here. So MieGod looking to be in a really good spot. However, on the side of Lonely God, I mean, he can use this kind of lull in the action to set up Justicar, which could put him out of range. That's basically what you want to do as the Control Warrior. You need to get the Justicar on the field so you can keep tanking up, and you're not in danger of dying to the combo.
Yeah, it makes it really hard for your opponent to combo you if you've got the tank up. And the earlier you can get that out as Control Warrior against pretty much any class at this point, the better.
Right, and we see that Darnassus come on the field, and these are the 2 things that have kind of closed the gap between these 2 decks. It used to be just a brutal matchup for the Warrior, but now there's Darnassus, which can be easily killed by a weapon, and there's the Tank Up, which can put the Warrior out of range. So both things coming into play here. Looks like MieGod is 2 damage off lethal right now with the combo in hand. If maybe something else were discounted, he might have been able to make something happen, but not going to be the case. We'll see how he deals with this Baron Geddon. It's kind of difficult right here, to say the least. He might just charge the face, yeah. Looks like with that tank up, he just wants to put as much pressure as possible, and I can definitely see this play being effective.
Yeah, with his Shredder as well, it gives him potentially another drop coming off that, and a pretty good chance of being able to get the combo off next turn.
And the one thing here is that Lonely God can't kill his own Baron Geddon, so he's only going to be able to get to 16 health if there's no armor gain. I mean, speaking from MieGod's side, right? Part of the reason why he went with that is if there's no shield block, if there's no shield maiden, then you're in a pretty good spot as far as your opponent's health is concerned. MieGod's nightmare right here is shield block. We see this not in hand.
Yep, so it's going to be a pretty good course of play for MieGod. So he's going to have the weapon at most and the Baron Geddon. So you
kind of have to just take damage here from the Shredder and just hope, really. Yeah, you're gonna tank up back to 14. Gonna go back down to 12. Oh my goodness, the Honda Creeper just salt on the wound here.
That's really bad.
This is over, unfortunately. I think it was over no matter what, but just to make him feel even worse.
So that's going to be another quick win for MieGod.
And by the way, MieGod defeated Breath 3-0, so he's on a rampage.
Yep, another quick win. And what's the last deck where we're looking at these quick wins? Oh, just Aggro Shaman.
No
for
problem, right?
MieGod. So 3 chances to win. I mean, this is a really good position. I think the aggro shaman is your backstop because the chances of you being able to get aggro shaman to just do what it does best 1 out of 3 times is pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to, not get killed by some sort of crazy aggro shaman start at one point. And looking at the decks of Lonely God, it's going to be Druid, Paladin, and Warrior, the Warrior that we just saw. I mean, to be fair, those 3 decks, if you're going to have 3 decks, are not too bad. None of those are too, you know, unfavored in the matchup versus Shaman. And so we'll see if they can hold off the Rampage here from MieGod, or if MieGod's just going to roll to a 3-0 victory.
Well, I think the gods are definitely smiling on MieGod here.
Well, he's the
opposed to
God
Lonely
Slayer,
God.
right? So you
Well, I mean,
expect him to just 3-0, right?
you would also
No big
mean,
deal.
yeah, I guess you wouldn't expect the other gods to be smiling on the lonely god, would you? Because he's lonely.
He's so lonely and just gets slayed. Ooh, that's a really good start though by Lonely God. He needs, I mean, the Fire Warx would be nice, but minus that, this is pretty nice right here.
Double armor smith, and actually the shield slam early is really good as well. When you're going to be picking
Yeah,
up
right.
those armor smiths.
Exactly, because you know that your opponent's not running anything too big. So just to be able to get the threats off the table, like for instance, if there's a totem golem or something like that that your opponent plays and you can't deal with it with just the Fire Orax, having that shield slam in hand can be vital.
Yeah, exactly. The early, we saw that with in the previous game match with the aggro shaman against the control warrior. That Cruel Taskmaster execute really early on the totem golem turned out to be a really good play for the control warrior.
This is a really quick play here by wait. He was immediately reaching for the BGH, but now he could have played the Armor Smith and he would have had 4 armor anyway. He just missed out on playing an Armor Smith.
Yeah, you're right. He could have. Yeah, he would have had 4 armor, and still been able to shield slam.
And he would have had a Despite. He would have been smacking the face with the Armor Smith. He doesn't need to be playing this quickly. I mean, obviously, MieGod here, he gets to play as quickly as he wants. He's playing the aggro deck. He gets to, just fling stuff at the face of his opponent. But you're playing the control. Every single, turn counts. I mean, obviously, if you're playing the aggro, sometimes there are certain turns where you have to really pay attention. But for Lonely God, you can take your time. You have the entire 70 seconds to work with.
Yeah, this is a really psychological thing, I think, is that MieGod's playing really fast and has played really fast in the last 2 games. And that's kind of influencing Lonely God, I guess, in a way that he's feeling like he needs to keep up with the pace that his opponent is playing. And you do see some players somewhat taken in by that sometimes. And it's maybe a sign of slightly less experience.
Yeah, it could definitely be the case. So we see the attack onto the slime so that there's not any attack onto, for instance, this Stoneclaw Totem. Now, finally, this Armor Smith is going to come out, even though it could have been doing work a long time ago. But, yeah, this is all really that Lonely God can do. Brawl is pretty poor in this situation. You're never really going to get a good Brawl against the Shaman. But that all said, really what you really what you want against the aggro shaman is to have a good start, right? You can't take that extra damage in the beginning. You can't fall behind because once they get the damage in, they can just roll to a victory with all the bursts that they have in the deck. So just that's all to say that Lonely God is a pretty good position right now.
This is looking reasonably good for Lonely God here, as he now has that Armor Smith doing work, which is going to get him some armor. Could have been doing a little bit better, but it's now going to do some work. And, well, the spells are coming, but the problem is that if you try and put these in over turns, your opponent's going to be able to armor up, and especially with that Armor Smith, I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to do. He is down to 18, so a Doomhammer pickup would be pretty good here. You could then hit him for 10 with the Rockbiter and start to get him close to death, but I think the Warrior is going to be able to stabilize here. Right.
Bash is pretty nice as well. You get to do damage to your opponent while healing yourself. definitely what you want to be, getting here. Justicar, Shield Maiden, Shield Block, things like that. Martian Horse Rider is only 2 damage. It's annoying to kill, but not when your opponent already has a board. And this is the beginning again for MieGod in this game.
Yep, and I think MieGod will recognize that pretty quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a very early concede from him, particularly with the Gromash. I think that might actually be it for him.
Right. And the Grom is actually giving him armor as well. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Going to be 11 damage to the face, which means that there's lethal next turn with the Bash. See it, MieGod.
Double Rock Biter, okay.
Alright, that's going to be it. And Lonely God is actually able to take a game in this series and make it somewhat of a series in the process. Is now 1-2, still in favor of MieGod here. And
2-1 for MieGod. Now he's still a match point. As I say, he has another chance to get the aggro shaman to do its work.
Exactly. Going to go against Paladin and Druid, which is reasonable. Paladin, it is a mid-range Paladin. So that's good for MieGod. There's obviously more healing, more taunts in that deck, but Seeker Paladin is kind of notoriously good at defeating, aggro shaman because it's basically able to get the early tempo. And midrange obviously isn't quite as good. It can do so, but you need the right draws. Obviously things like Zombie Chow and Shield and Mini Bot right on time. So we'll see what Lonely God goes with. Maybe he goes with the worst matchup in the Druid first. Maybe he goes with the better one, the Paladin first. But still MieGod in the lead here.
Yeah, we've argued about this before, D2, in a Conquest matchup. So say you're in this position against the aggro shaman, whether it's 2-1 or 2-0, it doesn't really matter. Do you pick your best matchup first or your worst matchup? I would argue the worst matchup, because then you don't waste your time. If you're going to lose that matchup, you might as well just lose it quickly. But
you want the screen time. You want to be on camera. No, there's no wasting time when you're on camera.
I'd say we've had this debate before. I think I'm just a pessimist.
All right. Well, in any case, pretty good hands by both players actually. Well, kind of, I suppose. Lonely God actually needs another 2-drop to make this work. Other than that, he has a pretty nice hand. He can, play the Muster for Battle into the Defender of Argus or the Keeper of Aldermont to, keep, or to basically buff his minion, which is nice. But in the meantime, he has nothing really to do. Let's see if he picks up something. Nope. Doctor Boom is not going to help at all in the near future. So just has to hero power up. Still worth it to get that mini bot out for the tempo. As we see the Murgleton come in the field. Murgleton into Tunnel Trog as well. Also, he has the Ancestral Knowledge, so what's he going to go for
which
here?
Which one of these hero powers do you take? I like the Druid one.
It's very close between Druid and Warlock. Because he has Ancestral Knowledge. If that Ancestral Knowledge was, for instance, a Lightning Bolt, it's insta-Warlock right now. But that Ancestral Knowledge could turn into a Doomhammer, and you almost might not have time to play the Warlock hero power. So he does go for the Druid, goes for the it's kind of a risky play, but it could work out in the end.
I like it. Still keeping that Totem Golem healthy, and it's just going to be Muster for Battle here, which, I mean, it's good for board presence, but what's actually going to get done here against the Shaman? Not a lot. And we can see
it's going to get to work on the Tunnel Trog, so it definitely dies the next turn. And yeah, let's see.
There's the Doomhammer.
There's a Doomhammer.
There's both of them. Okay.
Wow, and just going to use all of his mana here. I definitely like, going for the Crackle, because you might as well just be, Overload to Oblivion next turn if you're going to be overloaded at all.
You can't play Doomhammer anyway. There's no way you can play the Doomhammer next turn, unless you... No, if you top deck Lava Shock, you still can't play it, so... You might as well Crackle here, and you might as well just go face with the Tunnel Trog as well.
The consideration, though, is that if you Crackle now, you can't play Lava Burst next turn, but if you commit to playing Lava Burst next turn, you can't Doomhammer the turn afterward either.
Exactly.
So it's kind of close. You get the extra damage from the Trog as well. Looks like he's not going to go for it. I mean, clearing out 1/1 is pretty nice as well. It's really, really close. But I can see why he went for this.
And this is why it does kind of... it's a little bit silly to call this kind of like a brainless deck or a very easy deck to play. These hyper-aggressive decks, particularly when you're not just managing your hyper-aggression damage, you're also having to manage overload as well.
Ooh. Lonely God face tanks that. Really wants to get the board here, but he might end up regretting that a lot. We'll see.
Yep, so we're going to see the Abusive Sergeant is a nice pickup. Don't know if I like the Crackle.
Well,
I mean, I guess he's saving the Doom Hammer for turn
I suppose
7,
well, if you roll
potentially.
for 6, it works, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's okay.
So yeah, Lonely God's just dead. He can't. MieGod realized he's like, well, there's gonna be defenders, so I just need to get him here, and that's gonna be it. That's gonna be the game. To be fair, he had a 50-50 chance of getting being able to win with Lava Burst the following turn, so definitely makes sense. That's gonna be it. MieGod is going to the round of 16.
Well, that was, as I say, that was quick. That was around like 20 minutes actual game time for a best of 5. Pretty ridiculous. So we'll see MieGod next.